All right, welcome everyone. Share my screen. Welcome to our April 2026 Symbiota support group. Very excited to see you all. I'm going to make a couple announcements and then we'll jump right in because our tools today are a little bit on the complicated but exciting side, so we want plenty of time for that. First of all, you probably received an email this morning about some re user interface changes that are coming in the newest Symbiota version, and I just kind of wanted to show you what that looks like. So if I go to a Symbiota portal, that is in 3.4, but not in 3.4.4 quite yet. So normally, this has been how Symbiota has behaved for 20 years, is when you click My Profile, the first thing you see are all the checklists that belong to you, because the first thing that is open is this Species Checklists tab. And then if you want to go to where you can make edits and administrator stuff in your collection, you have to click Occurrence Management, and then you'll see your collections. Well, the change that's coming up is that because most users are actually using the collection management, if they're using My Profile, we went ahead and put that at the forefront. So if you click My Profile now, it takes me directly to collection management. And then all of your checklists are just on this next tab over that's been renamed Species Inventories. So if you're used to seeing the Species Inventories thing, don't worry, it's just in the next tab over. And the link is the same. So if you've like saved the link, like what I do when I have a bookmark is it takes me directly to this page. That link is still the same. So it's not like you're gonna have to remake your bookmarks or anything. Then the other announcement was just a short service disruption that happened starting Sunday morning. We lost connection to our media server temporarily, kind of unexplained, but there was no it was just some sort of network error. And then KUIT was able to fix that this morning. So if you had any troubles uploading images or viewing images that had been uploaded in the last year or so, that's the reason. So they should all be fine and visible now. So thanks for KUIT and for Greg, our system admin, for fixing that real fast. Okay, a couple of upcoming events and activities that you can find the Symbiota support group, a Symbiota support hub at would be the Consortium of Northeastern Herbaria, the Northeast Natural History Conference, which is happening in Burlington, Vermont. Ed Gilbert is going to be there in the flesh. That's very exciting. And the Consortium of Northeastern Herbaria is having a meeting there. So if you have any connection or interest in the Consortium of Northeastern Herbaria, then you might see what they're doing there. And then we will also be at Botany this year. So Botany's in Tucson again. I think it was there in 2021 or something. And we're also leading a colloquium called the Herbarium Consortium Roundup. So we're having a few folks who have been leading herbarium consortia across the country talk about the cool things that they've been doing. I see Chilla's here. Chilla's going to talk there. And so we're excited for that. All right. And then let's just go ahead and hop right in. So Lindsay gave you a great overview of some of the new functions in 3.4 a couple months ago. And now we're going to talk about some of the more technical brand new tools that are available in this version. Okay, so I will first note that Symbiota 3.4 has a lot of updates. And you hopefully have already seen this blog post, but I'm going to put it in the chat anyways. But this is basically a listing of all of the features and the adjustments that have been made. Probably not all of them. There might be some, dotted I's and crossed T's somewhere that aren't mentioned in that document. But if you want the full list, you can go into GitHub and look at every single thing that's ever been made. It's kind of ridiculous how much improvement has been made. So, like I said, Lindsay already covered searching and downloading enhancements. And so today we're talking about other major new tools and enhancements. So specifically two new tools, the duplicate georeference harvesting tool and the coordinate validator tool. And of course, we'll take questions throughout. Okay, so the duplicate georeferencing harvesting tool, super exciting. I'm very excited about this tool. If you need information about, well, to reference more information about this tool, you'll want to go to our Symbiota docs. There's a whole guide there, so you can reference both this video and that written documentation. This new tool was funded by the Texas and Oklahoma Regional Consortium of Herbaria, also known as TORCH. So thanks to them for funneling some much needed funds toward this tool. Okay, so let's start at kind of what is the purpose of this tool broadly. First of all, for any of you who are not herbarium related folks, this tool is based on the idea of botanical duplicates. So creating duplicate specimens is a long, has happened for many hundreds of years. It's like as long as people have been collecting plant specimens and lichen specimens and fungi specimens, they have often been collecting duplicates, which is a specimen of the same taxon collected at the same place at the same time by the same person. So in Symbiota, if the duplicates tools are turned on in your portal, then you likely have access to being able to see duplicate specimens of your specimens. And those, according to Symbiota algorithms, is the same collector with the same collector number and the same date. So herbarium collectors have a long history of keeping their own kind of internal numbers whenever they're collecting specimens. So if I went out there and collected a plant, I would say, okay, according to my field notebook, this is the 37th plant that I've collected. So that specific specimen gets the collector number 37. So that's what these tools depend on. If you have specimens that do not have collector numbers or collectors or dates, they're not going to be linked automatically using the duplicate matching tools. So just know that. So the point of this tool is to take those botanical duplicates that might be deposited at different herbaria and be able to compare them and exchange data between them, specifically georeference data. So here's an example of this is a Cal Poly specimen, but also the University of Nevada, Las Vegas has a copy, and the University of Nevada, Reno also has a copy. So same collector, same day, same collector number. And those can be linked automatically on the back end, or not on the back end, using the duplicate matching tools or clustering tools. And let's say that this was collected 50 years ago and they didn't have a GPS, and so they just had a description of how to get to the place. Well, say Cal Poly has a bunch of money from an NSF grant, and we go and georeference a bunch of our specimens. Well, those georeferences are hard-earned labor. Like that is information that's hard to get and time-consuming. And it applies to all of these specimens because they were all collected in the same exact place by the same exact person. But programmatically, we didn't have a way of being able to quickly flag a bunch of duplicate specimens and transfer data between them. You could do this one by one when you were doing data entry. You could click the duplicates button and then look at whether there are duplicates and transfer that data in. So here's an example of a specimen from Cal Poly. You could click the duplicates button. You could say, hey, here's an exact duplicate from UC Riverside, and it's already been georeferenced. I'm going to transfer these empty fields into my specimen record, which is great, but that's very one by one, and you have to look at every single specimen, click the several buttons to get the data in there. And this tool is intended to make that much quicker by being able to look for all the specimens that are linked as duplicates, that have a duplicate that has been georeferenced, and then you can assess which georeferences you want to bring into your specimen records. Okay, so let's just walk through this in action, and that'll give you a better idea of how that's happening. So this is a screenshot that's going to show you where you will find this tool, but I'll also navigate there. So if I go to my profile, occurrence management, soon you don't have to click that tab. And then I click on the collection that I want to do this in. You'll find this tool under duplicate clustering in the administration control panel. So if you don't see this duplicate clustering, that means that duplicates are not activated in your portal, probably because they're not relevant to your portal. So I don't think this is probably activated in an insect portal. So if I click duplicate clustering, then you'll see the tool is right here. It's called the Batch Copy Duplicate Georeferencing Tool. Click on that, and it's going to give you options to harvest data. Okay, so here we are defining the search terms for the duplicates that we are interested in viewing. So what it's automatically going to do is show me specimens. Since this box is checked, it's going to show me specimens that have duplicates that do not have a latitude and longitude. And it's going to show me the linked duplicates of those specimens that match the search criteria that I put right here. So sometimes it's a little bit challenging when I'm using this tool. I'm like, okay, wait, what am I searching on? Am I searching on my collection or am I searching on everyone else's collections? This is searching on everyone else's collections. So all of your specimens are automatically going to show up, but this is searching on everyone else's. So let's say that if I just click search here, it's going to show me all of my specimens that have duplicates and all of their duplicates. Okay, not immediately helpful because mine is not georeferenced, but neither is California Academy's. So not super useful. So what you want to do, if you are specifically looking to copy georeferences into your records and you don't just want to look at a listing of duplicates, is you set your criteria to look for specimen records from other collections that have georeferences. So you would come in here and you would say, let's say decimal latitude is not null. So that means that their collection has latitude, longitude. Okay, so now I can search. Okay, now I'm getting somewhere. So what this is saying here is that I have a collection, I have a specimen collected by Painter and Niece. This is the collector number, and it has been georeferenced by somebody else, but my version has not been georeferenced. So I can evaluate, okay, do I think Santa Barbara Botanic Garden did a good job? Does this specimen record have all the metadata that I would be interested in? Do I trust this georeference, and therefore do I want to bring that georeference data into my specimen record? So you can use the fields that show up here to determine whether you trust that georeference. Or you could just click on these specimen links right here and compare your specimen record to their specimen record, kind of doing it like longhand. Like that's if you want to look at all the details. But if you just look at this table here and you scroll to the side, then you can see that most of the fields that you will need are already provided. So here's the lat long, the datum, the footprint, the coordinate uncertainty, the person who georeferenced it, any georeference remarks, keep going, georeference sources, verification status, and then here's all of the locality information that you can compare to. So, okay, these are both Fort Hunter Liggett. They're the same location, they've just been transcribed a little bit different. All right. So I could say, oh, I know that Dieter, I know this is Dieter Wilkin, he did a good job. I trust his georeferences. So then I can click this checkbox here, And anything that you check in this list, once you click copy duplicate data, those coordinates are going to be applied to your specimen record, to the one that is highlighted here. The reason why you have to check each individual one is because there are often cases, let's see if I can find one. There are often cases when there's more than one duplicate. So this is a case where Painter, Neese, Haysbrook, and Chestnut sent their specimens to multiple collections, and I have to decide which georeference I trust more. So maybe I'm going to say, well, Dieter actually put his name here and his source there. So I'm going to say that I slightly trust this one more. Then you would check this box, and then you would click copy duplicate data. If you checked both of these boxes, which is not a good idea, it would just take the first one. So just so you know. The things that will copy into your new record are listed in the documentation here. And it will copy all of these fields. And it's going to replace any existing values of those fields. That way we don't come up with this weird like interleaved, like, oops, the latitude came from this source and the longitude was already there, and then the georeference remarks. So it's going to copy latitude, longitude, datum, footprint, uncertainty, all these metadata fields onto your specimen record exactly as they appear on the duplicate from which you are copying the data. So if I click copy duplicate data, it's going to give me a little update. It said, here, I put the coordinates on this record and I put the coordinates on this record. If you want, you could go check. Voila, it copied them on here. It also is going to add some data to the georeference remarks. It says copied from duplicate, provides the collection code, and then the catalog number of that specimen. So that's just a nice little housekeeping thing that it applies. Copied from duplicate. There we go. Let's see. One option that you can do if you're like, I'm trying to do this quickly, but you're making me click 300 check boxes. One thing you can do is click this auto select duplicates with only one option, and then click search again. And then anything that only has one alternative option, it's going to automatically check. That's if you're like, I'm pretty confident in the other collections data that's in here. But then you can use your search criteria to narrow down that search to look for duplicates that you're very confident in. So for example, if you click this filter collections button, you can select which collections that you're looking for duplicates in. Because maybe you know that I don't know, Catalina Island, they did a big batch georeference, but they georeferenced everything to the center of the county. And you're like, well, I don't think that's helpful enough. So I'm going to exclude them from my duplicate search. Or you can say, well, I know there was this one collection that did some garbage work and I'm going to unselect that collection. Then you can close and search, and then that's going to update your results. You can also do like anything you can do in a record search form, you can do here. You could say, all right, well, I only want things that have an uncertainty. So, oops. So I'm going to go coordinate uncertainty is not null. And I also only trust things that have a georeferenced by field. So I'm going to say is not null. And then I'm going to say, well, also I want the coordinate uncertainty to be less than 10,000. You can search, and then you are getting way more specific results. And that way you would say like, yeah, anything that has an uncertainty of less than 10,000 that has a georeference by, I'm going to go ahead and trust that. And I'm going to go all the way down here, click copy duplicate data. And I think it only shows you a subset. I don't know if it shows you all of them, but I'll have to check with our developer. Let's see, next. Nope, there is no next. That's all that's here. So that's this tool. The other option that I didn't talk about was only show duplicates with georeferences that are different than the target specimen. So that would be, you could turn that on as well. If you have both of these on, then you probably don't need to do the decimal latitude is null because you're already searching in your collection for things that are not or are null. Let's see if I do that. Search. Oh, I think I messed something up. Do, do, do. Apparently there are none that match that. Okay, decimal latitude is not null. There we are. Okay, so I see a bunch of stuff in the chat that I'm going to look at real quick. Do, do, do. Yes. Okay. So this tool is only available in portals that have been updated to 3.4, which is at this point kind of everything except for Signet. Signet is a huge database, and it takes a long time to update the schema, like the database structure. And so we were planning on doing that over the weekend, but then this little image problem showed up, and so we waited for a second. So it should probably be updated to 3.4 in the next week or so, but we will send you all an email when that's been complete. Okay, Alan asks, can you clarify where the changes reside and endure when data has been added to duplicates? So the changes will just exist in your record. So if I go into my record, they will show up in the latitude, longitude, uncertainty, datum, verbatim coordinates, etc., all of those fields. Oh, good point, Frank. Lichen Consortium has not been updated to 3.4 either. Kirsten asks, can you compare the two coordinates in a map, or would you have to go to the map of each individual record? That is correct. We didn't have enough development time to be able to put the things on the map, but you can go to each individual specimen record and look at the maps there. So let's go here. Is not no. And then, well, I wouldn't have any coordinates here. Let's see if I can find one. Here we go. Well, in this case, all of these coordinates are the same, so that's kind of arbitrary. But if you had multiple duplicates that were different, then you could go to the occurrence editor, actually not the occurrence editor, to the map, and then to the map, and compare where those coordinates are. Okay, Chilla says, the mapping function maps the decimal latitude, longitude, not verbatim coordinates. Sometimes we keep the verbatim coordinates to preserve specimen data, but we highly suspect that there is an error based on location description. So if people copy over our coordinates, would it copy over verbatim or just our georeferenced? Oh, great question, Chilla. It does not pull over verbatim coordinates. It only pulls over the lat, long, and all of the metadata associated with that georeference. Kirsten asks, what about specimens in your collection that are already georeferenced, but duplicates at another institution have different coordinates? Is there a way to compare those? Yes, Kirsten, that is why. Going back, going back. Okay, that is why there's this checkbox here that you can unselect. So this says only show specimens from my collection without latitude, longitude. So you can actually compare the ones that do have coordinates. So see, in this case, I have coordinates in mine. they have coordinates in theirs. And I could say, well, I kind of like mine because they have a smaller coordinate uncertainty. But you can also look at ones that are not the same and maybe like theirs more and bring theirs in. Alan, so if I understand the added data is evanescent and must be redone every time once to look at the situation. No, Alan, this data gets copied onto the specimen record and that becomes its georeference and is saved in the database as such. Diana, can you exclude specimens with georeferencing remarks contains county centroid? Yep, that could be another thing that you put in here. You could say, all right, georeference remarks. X does not contain centroid, for example. Is georeference remarks still 255 characters? Does the canned duplicate text get added to the georeference remarks from the match? Yes, Ryan. I believe there has not been an update to georeference remarks length, but I could be wrong. And yes, the duplicate text does get appended to any georeference remarks. It does not replace georeference remarks. It will very likely need more space in some cases. Any other questions? I'm going to stop sharing real quick. See if anyone has any other questions. So, Alan, the matches that are happening are not based on location. They're based solely on collector, collector number, and date. So those are duplicates that have already been matched on the back end. There's no locality matching. And I'll remind folks, since not everyone uses duplicate clustering very often, that before you can run, or before this tool is helpful for you, you might want to go into this batch link specimen duplicates tool and run it for your collection. If you click this, it's just going to automatically run. And that goes into all of your records and compares it to all of the other records in the portal and automatically links all those duplicates. So if you want to use this tool, then you'll probably want to run this first. Okay, well, I see we're already at the halfway mark, so I'm going to move into the next tool. But if you have other questions that come up from this previous tool, let me know. Yeah, Frank?
Yeah, so with the batch linking, is that batch linking only on like collector number and date, or what, how is that working? Because I noticed when you do use a duplicate tool, sometimes there are suggestions made of things that are not really duplicates.
Yes, it only links strict duplicates of exact collector number and date. It
Okay.
doesn't do the like potential same events. Like if it's collector and date, it won't just do those.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
All right, feel free to keep the questions coming in the chat and I will revisit it. Okay, second tool I want to talk about today is the coordinate validator tool. And again, if you need any guidance about using this tool, which I highly recommend taking a look at this because it explains the results that you might see as a result of using this tool, then go to Symbiota Docs. We have new documentation for this tool. So the coordinate validator tool, you're going to find in a new section of the data cleaning menu, or the data cleaning tools, and it's called specimen coordinates. And there's a whole action panel here with a couple of options and some things you can look at. You can look at all your georeference specimens, your not georeference specimens, your georeference specimens that don't have verbatim coordinates or do have verbatim coordinates. And then there's this coordinate validator tool, which I'm going to explain. So before I go into that, I'm going to just show you again where this resides. So again, I'm in my administration control panel. and I'm going to data cleaning tools. And if I walk down here, I'll see this brand new section here, specimen coordinates. And then to look at the tool, you go to verify coordinates against political boundaries, and we're at the coordinate validator. Okay, so a couple of important points about the coordinate validator tool is that it depends highly on your geographic thesaurus. And it depends on that geographic thesaurus containing geoterms and containing polygons belonging to those terms. So not all portals have a well-curated geographic thesaurus that actually has polygons in it. So if you are playing around with this tool and you're like, wow, none of these actually make any sense, it's probably because your portal doesn't have polygons in it yet. And I'll explain what polygons are in a minute. So you'll want to reach out to your portal administrator or the Symbiotic Support Hub so that we can help you get, or we can help get the polygons into your portal. So polygons can be imported automatically by an administrator using the geographic harvester, which is referencing this API tool that I'm going to put in the chat. So if you're like, wow, this polygon is garbage, well, that's apparently due to geoboundaries.org, but this is the reference that we have been using to get our administrative levels for the polygons. And one thing that has come up in recently in the help desk is someone contacted us and said, hey, you said that like this point is validating against counties. Well, Mexico doesn't have counties and Canada doesn't have counties. Um, and that is true. What geoboundaries bases their polygons off of, I'm not entirely sure, but in according to Darwin Core, a county is just an administrative level that is below state, and a state is just an administrative level below county. So even if it's named slightly different, like provinces or parishes in the case of Louisiana, then it still fits in the state or the county levels according to Darwin Core. So you're just going to see administrative levels. They're nicknamed county and state. Okay, so this is a snapshot of an item in the geographic thesaurus. This is Panama, the country, and then there is a quote unquote state within the country called Darien. And these are the polygons that it's searching based off of, that the coordinate validator tool is searching it. So what this tool is attempting to do is compare the values in the specimen records. For example, this one from California Botanic Garden is supposedly in Darien. And it's saying, hey, do these coordinates fall within the boundaries of this polygon as saved in the geographic thesaurus? So that's essentially what this tool is trying to do. All right, so I'm going to go to this tool, into my data cleaning tools again, down to verify coordinates against political boundaries. And the first time you see this tool, when you open this tool, you're just going to see a table that looks like this. It says, whoops, it says unverified records listed by country. And it's going to, this is just saying, hey, you have this many records in the United States that we haven't compared to the polygons. So I ran this one this morning. It does 50,000 records at a time. So that's what I did. I could run this again and then it would update these counts, including these additional ones. So you can run it multiple times. And while you're running it, you have some options. So if I click validate coordinates, all it's going to do, if I don't select any of these checkboxes, is compare your points of your georeference specimens to the polygons. If I checked this, then for any record that does not have a country, but it does have coordinates, it would automatically populate the country value. If I check this box, then for any record that has coordinates but doesn't have a state province, then it would infer it from the polygons and put that in my specimen records. Same thing with counties. So if it has coordinates and doesn't have a county value, you could check that box and it would automatically add the county values to your specimen records. Obviously, a lot of power there, so you probably want to use with caution, but those options are there. So I already ran this for the first 50,000 records in this collection. And here are its options. And they might not seem immediately intuitive, so I want to walk you through what some of these mean. And again, point you to Symbiota docs because there's a good explanatory section here of, hey, if you see this record or this error, then these are the things that could be happening to those coordinates. So the first one is failed to validate coordinate based on geographic thesaurus. What that means basically is that your coordinate doesn't fall within any polygons. So we don't know. It could just mean that the polygons are missing. It could be that our polygons are not precise enough. That's actually really common with this particular collection because if I click on these records and let's see, just open one up. No, not that one. Maybe this one. Oh, maybe that one. If you open it up, sometimes it will show up like on a coastline or very near to a coastline. And that's because our polygons are not super precise and they might shave off Belize City in this version. That was actually something that was pretty common in this collection because we're in California. California has a lot of little jagged edges where you can find interesting plants. And so sometimes those were accidentally cut off. So that's a limitation of this tool is that it depends on those polygons and those polygons are only so precise. Then there's this section, failed to validate despite known search polygon. So in this case, it found a polygon, it could not fit your coordinate in the polygon. So another case of that shaving off of polygon features. Actually, I might have misspoke. Let's see. So the issue I first talked about, it might be it's not within any boundaries, county or state. It might have state, country or county values that aren't in the geographic thesaurus at all. And it might just not have a polygon in the thesaurus, as I was talking about. Okay, then we get into these levels, which are slightly more helpful. So these are the state of the province does not match the coordinates. So we looked at those state provinces and they didn't fall within those boundaries. I'm like, okay, well, let's click on this and see what's going on. Okay, so in this case, I had a state province of California. Well, I already see something's wrong because this says this is in Lesotho, and Lesotho does not have a California state. So there must have been some data entry error here. And as you can see, the coordinates also do not fall within California because it's in Lesotho. So this is a case where I would say, whoops, there was something went wrong there. So I'm just going to remove California. And maybe I accept this, maybe I don't. And I hit save. So what you saw there is that it tried to use the coordinates that I had provided to automatically fill the state and the county values based on the geographic polygons. So if you don't agree with them, you can just remove them, but that is the backfilled state, province, and county values if those are provided and these are blank. It's not going to overwrite anything you put in there. It's just going to provide some suggestions for if it's blank. And then basically the same thing happens if you use county. So it's looking for, let's see, in Utah, Washington County, if I open this map up and I go look at my counties, if you click on the county, it'll tell you which county it is. So this is Kane County and this is Washington County. So this is a case when either the coordinates are a little bit off, like the georeference is a little bit off, or the collector maybe didn't know what county they were in, or it's too close to call, like maybe this point falls within the error radius of being in the other county. So you just have to make a call about how to fix those. Okay, looking at the chat here. Frank makes the point that there are a lot of issues with political categories that aren't available. Um, Yeah, for sure. The geographic thesaurus is not as simple as one might think, because there are all these options of like islands that belong to France or are under the protectorate of France and exist down near Chile. So what's the France polygon look like? Things like that. Um, Gary says it appears that this tool can show misplaced coordinates like a missing negative sign in latitude. Yep. All of this presumably works on live collections, not snapshots. Technically, you could run this tool on snapshots. It's just not a good idea to run data cleaning on snapshots because then the data is updated there, but not in your home database. It could be useful though if you have a snapshot in a portal and you have like your database open and you use these tools and you could say, ooh, here's a catalog number, and then like look for it in your database and update it there. But obviously, if you're live managed, then you could just update it right there in the portal. And Alan has shared some information about a tool that he's developed to check coordinates by their polygons, so to speak. Any other questions about either of these tools? It kind of takes a little bit of uh, playing around to find out what the issues are in your collection and whether you can batch change them or whether you need to change them one by one, whether they require some like expert knowledge to um, address or whether, they're easy, like, hey, California's not in Lesotho. That's pretty obvious. Any other questions? Walter.
Hey, yeah, this is great. These tools are really fabulous, and I think they're going to be really useful. I would caution people on one thing, though. In my experience, I spent almost all my time cleaning up records when people did these big bulk updates or copying data that really were not done very precisely. So I really caution that I think it's a good idea to sort of look at these one by one, even if that might be sort of tedious. But if our goal is to have accurate data, it really takes somebody who is knowledgeable, someone who's a good quality control person to make sure they're correct, and not to just oh, I'm going to accept 15,943 records because I trust people blindly. I'd really caution against big bulk uploads because that can just introduce additional problems to clean up. And I say this from many, many years of experience. It's very
Totally.
tempting. It's like, oh, I cleaned up 15,000 records. But if our goal is to be accurate, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great point, Walter. The batch tool is only so batch. You still like kind of have to look at each one, but it is easier to copy, garbage in, garbage out. So you got to be careful about what you're copying over. Gene.
I had an interesting battle with my database. There are a bunch of Swedish records that were old, and it turns out that they renamed a bunch of cities and they renamed their districts. Yeah. And one of them was landing out in a place that was so remote you couldn't imagine all these collections having come from there. But it turned out to be the Latin name for where the botanical garden is and the
Oh
capital.
man. Wow.
So beware of such things.
Yeah, good point. Ryan asked, can the point be turned into a point with uncertainty radius when checking geography? Or i.e., use the uncertainty to see if the point plus the uncertainty is still within a political boundary. No, not at the moment. It requires the precise point that has been georeferenced. Yeah, and you make the point, he makes the point that so many georeferences do not have remarks, and so it's really hard to know how they were generated. Yeah, so kind of the georeference duplicates tool was inspired by some work that we did with the Consortium of California Herbaria and the Lichen and the Bryophyte portals is as part of the global project where I wrote a script that could go and make these linkages or it could leverage the linkages and then output a spreadsheet that allowed you to like go through the whole spreadsheet and decide which ones you want to keep. But then when Torch came to us, they were like, hey, what would be a good tool that's going to help us do a bunch of georeferencing and fixing? And we said, hey, we could put this script, make it part of the code. And so it's all in there now, but it still requires someone skilled, someone knowledgeable to go in and make those determinations about what you're bringing into your records. And that's why we made this an administrator tool, not just like a data editor tool, because someone should really know what they're doing when they're doing lots of edits or even a few edits of pulling new data in. Anything else?
I have a question, actually.
Go for
Um,
it.
with the review verify occurrence edits table, like, will parts of this be tracked and can be undone? Or how does that work?
That's a good question. If I recall correctly, then the coordinate data is not pulled in. Let me double check this. Um, yeah, I don't think that using the duplicate tool will automatically add values to the review verify edits tool. Um, and then for the coordinate validator, there is no edits there. That would just, you go in and make edits. So those would be tracked. Diana says, could a list of trusted georeferencers, possibly by political boundary, be created to streamline decisions? I think it's so very variable that it's going to depend on collections and portals. So I definitely think a list like that for your own use would be useful, but it would be really hard, I think, to generalize among collections. For example, I know some collections are like way more strict about what georeferences they let in, and some collections are like, yeah, county centroids are fine. So you might, have a different logical decision-making process than another collection. And so your collection of trusted georeferencers might be shorter or longer than someone else's. But when I was doing this on a collection by collection basis, as part of those other projects, I did start a document for myself about, okay, what are the decisions I'm making? Like, who are the people that I'm trusting? What sizes of georeferences do I trust? There's some funky things that you might find, like for some reason, geolocate likes the uncertainty radius of 3036 meters. It's just one of those automatically generated things. And so whenever I saw 3036 in the coordinate uncertainty, I didn't trust it because I was like, that's an automatically created coordinate uncertainty. I'm not going to follow that. So it takes a little bit of knowledge and just like combing through the data to look for what what you can trust and what you can't. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, and Alan makes the point that with regard to who can be trusted, it's good to remember that the data entry can be far removed from the collection. Yeah, whoever georeferenced that may have no idea like the specific collection methods of the person or of that location or it's been georeferenced 40 years after the thing was collected. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and end our recording.